Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another career conversation with viSHEbility. My name is Mary Moshikbai Adeyemi. I am the founder of viSHEbility, and I'm super excited to be hosting you at our first career conversation for 2021. And today we're going to be chatting with Lola Bankole, who is just you guys will get to know her. She's our first, our first person in technology space that we are interviewing. And so it's going to be a different conversation. Lola is also a podcaster. So just, expect lots of banter, lots of conversation, because this is clearly what she does and does really, really well. So I'm really excited for you guys to meet her. If you've never engaged with viSHEbility, I'll tell you a little bit about us. So we are a platform that is on a mission to improve the outcomes for Black women in the marketplace through inspiration, coaching, and community. You can check out more about our work at www.viSHEbility.com. And it's been a really exciting week for us at viSHEbility because we launched our first group coaching program called the 6S MVP. So also, if you want to know more about that, if you're in your early stages of your career, about to transition, you need some support, you want to learn about how to kill it in your career in a safe and supportive space with me as your coach, of course, it is going to be a great program for you to check out. So if you go onto our website, which is also viSHEbility.com/6S MVP, MVP meaning most valuable player. So we're really helping our women to transition really well from their academics to the workplace and to transform from workplace newbie to most valuable player. So hopefully we can see some of you on that program. The deadline for applications is next week, Monday, the 15th of February. So really we expectant of your applications if you are going to do so. But with that, I am going to ask Panache and Lola to come up. And I'm really looking forward to a good conversation with you ladies.
Hello, it's lovely to have you.
Can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you. Looking lovely. Okay, amazing. Guys, I've been so excited for this conversation. And I think, Lola, I was badgering you from like mid-year last year. Like, we need like someone in tech on here. Like, we'll get into it, but there is just so much that you're doing, so much that you have done that I think loads of people are just going to find inspiring. And just about your journey, to be honest. So we're literally going to go through, I don't know, 20 years of Lola, from the beginning to the middle to the future. And then we're just going to see how you've got to where you are, how you've done that, what you've learned through that, and yeah, just kind of being inspired, really. So yeah, I think it would be great to kind of start from the beginning. And we always like kind of talk about, your strengths as a child, how you were as a child. It's like really bizarre how we actually stay within that. So taking that on, want to find out what you were like as a child. And yeah, if we were to look back, what was Lola like?
Well, I was very talkative. I remember when I was in like nursery 2 or something, I remember people saying, she would do so much better if she just stopped talking. And they used to sit me away from my friends because I would just be talking all the time. And nothing has changed, to be honest. I'm still talkative. So I guess a podcast makes sense.
Yeah, 100.
And I was very opinionated as a child as well. So
necessary.
My parents used to call me Margaret Thatcher because I just
No.
didn't take any nonsense. And now that I actually grown up to know like more about Margaret Thatcher, I'm like, I'm not sure about that. But yeah, I was, I think from what I remember, I was very opinionated, very talkative, didn't really take no for an answer, kind of, I don't know why kind of thing. So yeah, nothing has really changed. So I think you're right when you say how you are, as the way you grow up kind of shapes who you become, which is
yeah. Absolutely, we love that. And Margaret, you're a born leader, so
yeah, she has some questionable rulings, so I'm not sure.
no, that sounds great. So you were talkative, you were a leader, and you're opinionated. All these things are like so necessary when it comes to like careers and actually establishing your place in your career. But like it's really interesting because like we've had conversations before and you called yourself a tech head, and I was like, when did she discover that she was a tech head?
think it was around secondary school. I wouldn't say tech head. I wouldn't have said tech head then, but I knew that I liked math and I liked, applying, stuff.
Yeah.
So I remember when I was in secondary school and it was time to pick courses for university. My dad is an engineer, so I was always kind of curious that way. And I remember speaking to a counselor. I was like, I want to study something cool and something, that's placed to my strengths.
Yeah.
I like math. I like physics. What should I do?
Mhm.
And they're like, how about electronic engineering? I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
I absolutely hated my course, but but I think engineering is the kind of course that really pushes you to think about application, and I really enjoy applying technology to things. So, applying logic to things, applying technical solutions to things, and I'm not a developer or a coder or anything, but I just enjoy answering questions with technology, and that really is what technology is about. It's about solving problems, and
Wow.
I enjoy that. So when I say tech head, the real tech heads are probably looking at me like,
Who
wait.
are you?
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think that's like such a good point, because I think, we're going to get onto this later. Like when we think about kind of like tech, I'm thinking, I don't know how to code in 20 plus languages, but like it's going to be so interesting, kind of seeing how you've taken your strengths into your career and really, shaped it into a product designer, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like wanted to get onto like your university career like really briefly, because honestly I read your degree, I said, wow, like Bachelor of Engineering, Electronics, electronical and communicational engineer, and then you did a master's in information technology and business no, information management and business technology, which is absolutely awesome. But like as you said, like why did you think that, why did you want to do the hybrid? Why wasn't it just like IT, but why did you want to kind of like mix it up?
So when I did my engineering degree, like I said, I hated it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, to be honest, I think I went into it with different thoughts of what it would be. I had such high expectations for university. I had heard so much about university. I also went to university early. So I was a year above my peers because I didn't do A levels. I did a foundation course.
Okay.
So I think some of those things played into my university experience, and I absolutely did not enjoy it. Well, I enjoyed university, but not the course, because I just felt out of place most of the time. There was, and I didn't realize this at the time, but I was the only Black girl on my course. There was one other Black girl, and she quit after first year. I was one of 3 Black people. And most people just didn't share so I'm very curious about technology, but like I said, I'm curious about the applications. So I wasn't too concerned about how the circuits worked. It was like, okay, so what are we going to do with this? And a lot of people on my course were like, oh, so the circuit does this and you have to add this transducer and da da da. I'm like, I don't really care for that stuff. Like, how are we going to use this in real life? So when the opportunity came to a master's, I decided to do something hybrid because I also wanted to understand, like, business application of technology. I think that's where my strengths come into play, like, translating some of the tech stuff to business people. Because a lot of people, when they hear tech, they're just like, nope, don't want to hear it, don't care. ITs will deal with that. So I kind of speak tech and business. And when I found that that kind of course was available at Loughborough, I took the opportunity to do it. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. Like, I was so gutted at the end of my master's because I really enjoyed my course.
Wow. Okay. And it's so nice to see that, from that transition of like your bachelor's to your master's, that you actually had found something that you loved. And would you say at that point that you were willing to take that on as a career?
Absolutely. I think it definitely helped me. And Loughborough was the kind of university that they didn't just teach, they also taught you to apply. Awesome. So the minute I started, at least, it was, these are the kind of careers you can have. These are people that have been in those careers. Some of our lecturers actually were people who were from industry.
Wow. Okay.
So
Awesome.
you could talk to them about what their jobs were like if you wanted to explore something in that arena. And it also helped that I had done an internship before I started my master's. So
Okay.
I kind of could contextualize things a lot more, and it kind of made sense. I mean, the internship was 9 weeks long and you don't really get to see much in 9 weeks, but it gave you the context like, oh, okay, so this is what they're talking about when they say this and blah, blah, blah. So
Okay.
yeah, that really helped.
Okay. And yeah, I can see that running theme. It's like the application that you want to kind of like get to grips with. So that served, yeah, so many purposes, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But like, so in making that kind of step, I know we kind of like touched on it briefly, and I've been like sitting at the edge of my seat, like trying to find out how you got into tech. So I'm waiting for like a story because it sounds dramatic.
Um,
So yeah, please share.
so I mean, it's not that exciting. Like I didn't, travel 7 seas or anything. So in university, I was looking for jobs at the end of my third year,
Mhm,
and obviously I didn't know much, to be
mhm,
honest. So I was like, okay, I'll go on there, I'll go to the career fairs, I'll go to all of the things available to students. And when it came to the engineering fairs, it
mhm,
was like Mott McDonald, BAE Systems, companies that you probably never even heard of, like defense companies,
mhm, mhm, mhm.
rail, national rail, that was the
Yeah.
only one. And I was like, I mean, okay. Um, and I took some of the application forms and looked at some of the roles. And to be honest, the roles looked interesting.
Mhm,
But I wanted to work in London. I wanted to be like a city girl.
mhm.
So I was like, I don't really want to work in like Yorkshire or anything like that. I want to work in London.
Yeah.
So I remember I had lots of friends that did economics at the time,
Yeah.
and they were applying to this thing called SEO, and I was like, what is SEO and what's happening and what's it about? And at the time, I thought it was just for finance roles. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll apply to like
Yeah.
to McDonald's. And the funny thing is, none of them were accepting me. Like I was applying, they weren't really. I guess my enthusiasm wasn't coming out.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I guess I best give this SEO thing a try. Like, surely I too can be a banker.
Of course.
Um, and then I looked at their website, and they had a technology, like course,
Yeah.
technology, area of the website. And I thought, that would be interesting. I wonder what kind of technology. So in my mind, it was like surely just maybe networks and systems and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So I applied, I got in, I was like, oh wow, okay. And then I went for like I think they called it a meet and greet at the time.
Okay. Mhm.
And I remember, I will never forget his name. His name is Uche. And he asked, so why do you think, he asked a group of us, why do you think a company needs technology?
Okay.
I shot my hand up.
Yeah.
I was like, to prevent malicious attacks. And as soon as I said it, I knew I had said rubbish. And he was like, might want to think about that a bit more. And I remember him being very blunt, very like matter of fact, like don't even come mess around here. If you don't know what you don't know, then you need to go find out. And I remember thinking,
Gosh.
I need to find out. So I went away and I started trolling the websites of these companies, like, oh, okay, this is what their technology teams do. And there weren't that many companies with that much information anyway.
Okay.
But the next thing I know, they were like, okay, we want you to take tests. I'm like, oh, so I impressed you, surely.
Okay.
And that's how I got on. So they placed me at Barclays. I think it was between Barclays and Morgan Stanley or one other place.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
I picked Barclays because that's the only one I'd heard of at the time. And yeah, I got onto the internship program, and my manager liked me, and I guess they offered me a grad role. So I went away and did my master's and came back for the grad role.
Amazing.
That's how I got into technology, knowing absolutely nothing about what banks do in terms of technology, thinking I was going to be like connecting servers.
Literally.
I'm doing that kind of stuff. Yeah. So
Honestly,
yeah.
there are so many things in that, like SEO. SEO actually saves lives. Like SEO too. Mary's saying that she's SEO class of 2006 SEO art.
Oh wow, yeah. I think I was class of 2013.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And definitely it was Uche Ezichi. Yeah, that was him.
Guys, like literally when you said that, guys, sorry, this is like my pastor at church. Like Uche. Like it's actually a small
pastor? For real?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
He's like a youth pastor. So yeah.
Oh.
This is actually a small world, and it's actually really funny because so I joined Liberty Church TLC, and then we had an SEO event maybe like a few weeks later, and I was hearing Uche speak, and I was like, this guy is amazing. The Spirit of God is on him. So at the end of it, I was like, Uche, what church do you go to? And he was like, TLC. I was like, what? I was like, wow, no, SEO is.
No, he made an impression, and I remember very clearly. I was like, "Rah, I don't know anything. I better go learn." And I remember him being very honest, because he was like, "Look, we're not here to play games. You better know where you're going." And obviously, I think they were preparing you to work in an investment bank, and
Yeah,
it makes sense because you can't just go and
no,
around like you don't know what you're doing. You need to look sharp.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I love that. And then, so we've done SEO, we've been at Barclays, and like your career in Barclays. So you're a digital product owner.
Now, yeah.
I please.
What I mean.
What it mean? What it do? Like
so I started my career at Barclays as a business analyst.
Okay.
And I did that for 5 years or so. And I remember thinking, I work with internal systems. So I was, analyzing requirements and things like that for internal systems. I also dabbled in project management for smaller projects. And I thought at the time that, I want to do something client facing. I want to do something that is either revenue generating or a core thing that human beings use. Because at the time, in my opinion, in my experience, budgets got cut all the time for internal projects. And, it was really frustrating because, you're working on something and they either just axe the budget and then, you have to find something else, or there just isn't that much interest. But I thought if something is client facing and clients use it, then surely it'll be, people wouldn't be so quick to cut the budget. And then I also realized that, the world is moving more digital. A lot of things are becoming more digital. I want to get into that space. So I was on the Brexit program before I left Barclays, and we're working on a digital system, but it was internal. It was for legal transfer of contracts. And I remember then everyone was like, oh my God, Brexit is coming. Here we are. So what motivated me to move at the time was I don't see Brexit happening in the time frames people are talking about.
Wow.
And I feel now like I was a prophet, because here we are, 3 years later, and everyone was running around with their hair on fire. Oh my gosh, it's going to come live in April, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not.
That's that opinionated coming out. Yeah.
Exactly. So, when everyone was, trying to do all sorts of things and, cut corner, I was like, you know what? I best just leave. And obviously at the time I had been at Barclays 5 years. I was like, it's time for something new. So one of my managers, actually, from when I was a grad, had moved to Investec, where I work now. Okay. And she messaged me. I remember I used to message her randomly, like, oh, happy birthday, Merry Christmas, blah, blah. And I think anecdotally, that's very important to me, when it comes to networking. I think networking is so much more than, speaking to people in a group when you are in a formal setting. I think it's beyond that. Just keeping that relationship warm. So I used to text her randomly, like, oh, how are you doing? How are the kids? And then she messaged me one day. She's like, are you still a BA? I was like, yeah. And she said, oh, I'm looking for some BA. Send me your CV. I was like, oh, okay. And when it feels so serendipitous, like, I'm looking for a role, she's looking for a BA. This is perfect.
Amazing.
And I really enjoyed working for her. Wow. So I sent her my CV, didn't hear jack for like 4 months.
Wow, okay.
Okay. So maybe they don't like my CV, or maybe I'm just not good enough, right? So I
Uh-huh.
messaged her back saying, how far? Like, you took
Yeah.
my CV and I ain't heard nothing from you.
Uh,
And he said, oh, you know what? It's been crazy here. We're restructuring. Da, 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 da.
mhm,
Let me get back to you.
mhm,
And I heard from her in a week.
mhm.
And she's like, okay, so I want you to sit down with this person. I'm like, oh, that was quick. So I ended up sitting down with this lady who ended up hiring me. What was happening, I think, was, things were restructuring, so they weren't really sure. But
Okay.
long story short, they hired me in to do a BA role.
Amazing. Okay.
And I said to them before I joined, I said, this is what my aspirations are. I want to be a product owner. I'm trying to move into that space and I want to work on something digital, something client facing. And they said, well, we have that, but that's not the role you're coming in to do. But we can definitely get you onto that. I said, okay, no problem. So I got in, and I think after like 6 months or so, that opportunity then came available. And
Okay.
that's how I've ended up where I am.
Okay, amazing. So what does it mean to be like an owner? It sounds so official, like
It's not that official. So all it means is that you look after a live system. So think
wow.
about it like a project manager looks after a finite thing.
Okay.
That's a project. It has a start, middle, and an end.
Mhm.
The product is something that lives on. So most products start off as projects.
Mhm.
You start off, you think about all the things you need, you put them together, you hand it over. And then if it needs continuous improvement,
Mhm.
as most system will,
Mhm.
then it really should be a product. But what happens is a lot of times things just get passed on to BAU teams, and then you have like a very small group of developers that maintain the system.
Right.
But for something like a client-facing platform, you want to continuously innovate.
For sure.
So it's set up as a product.
Mhm.
Now, when I joined, my team wasn't set up in the way it is now.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, if I want this role, I have to almost make it for myself because nobody's going to give it to me, right?
Mhm.
So I said, well, it makes sense if we do this and that. And they were like, oh, because that's what I want. So that's what we should do, isn't it? So yeah, and I for a long time, my manager refused to even acknowledge me as a product owner. And I was like,
Oh.
well, everywhere I introduce myself, that is how I will introduce myself.
Mhm.
That's the work I'm doing.
Mhm.
And she started to understand that, okay, this makes sense. So sometimes I feel like you have to not fake it till you make it, but make it happen for yourself.
Exactly.
But if I was sitting there waiting for someone to knight me product owner, it would never have happened.
Yeah. And you know what I absolutely love, and I was going to say this later on, but I feel like your podcast, it actually sang to me. It was like, pull up your chair. Like, no one is going to pull it up for you, pull it up for yourself. And I love how that's kind of like how you handled that situation. Like, you had an idea and you thought this is how it could work, and you made that happen. So that's awesome. And how is like ownership of that? Do you feel pressure, or is it just like this comes very naturally to me?
There's definitely pressure sometimes, most times, because the way we set up is the way we're set up now is there are essentially two of us that are doing the role. But the other guy is more like a sponsor, like a project, like a program sponsor. So we kind of, do the role together, or, we work together. He's my stakeholder. There's definitely pressure because, first of all, if things aren't working, it's client facing. We've had some really horrid comments from clients.
Wow. Okay.
You'd be surprised the things that rich people say. And, you also get lots of, because it's client facing, no one wants to get it wrong. So there's lots of pressure there. If something is being deployed or, being sent out into the world, you have to check it like 7 times because you can't get it wrong. Whereas in my previous life, it's like, it's wrong. Sorry. We'll fix it in the next iteration. But literally now, if it's wrong, you have to fix it now. Especially with a system where people come to check their money. If there are mistakes, if it's not right, then they lose confidence in the fact that you are managing their money. So it has to be right.
Okay, I completely get that. And like, on a personal level, does it feel different? Like, does it feel like, does the pressure feel extra, like that you're a Black woman and like you're heading this project, this is your product, and like the pressure is kind of on you?
I wouldn't say so, to be very honest with you.
Mhm.
I mean, if other people feel it for me, then I guess that's their business.
That's none of your
But I personally don't feel like that, personally.
Okay.
And I think in tech, you tend to get that less because tech is quite, well, I say quite diverse. We struggle to find people of, well, Black people in tech roles. So in my team, I'm the only Black person.
Mhm.
In my department, there are like 3 of us.
Wow.
So, but I don't feel like an outsider or like because it's quite diverse. There are lots of Indians as well, lots of Asians. So, the floor back when we were in the office didn't feel, I didn't feel like I was a Black woman in a sea of white people. A lot of my stakeholders are white. And, sometimes, very, very, rarely, I feel like when they find out that it's me, it's like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, you gotta talk to me because I'm the one you gotta talk to. So let's go.
The manager, yeah.
So yeah, I don't manage the people on the team because all the developers report into someone else. So I don't have any management responsibility in terms of people. But I'm the one that's gonna answer all your questions. If you want something put live, or if you have an idea, you come to me. And I will tell you if it's doable or not. So, but my company is people are very friendly. Like if someone had a problem, at least they wouldn't express it out loud, which is great because I don't want to hear it. So, yeah, I haven't experienced anything untoward, although I have had some rude people talk to you rude, and I'm like, no, we don't do that.
I love that. And like, okay, so on the topic of diversity, so you are like the co-chair of your multicultural, is it your network?
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. So how is that? And like, how did that come about? And you put yourself out there to say, okay, I want to be co-chair of this. How was that process?
Yeah, so when I was at Barclays, I was part of what's it called? Have I forgotten? I think it's the Black Network or Black, I can't remember the name. But it started off as a multicultural thing, then they split it out into Black Professionals Forum, that's what it's called.
Okay, awesome.
So I was part of the network. I think I ran like a work stream or something. And I was just I found it enjoyable because one, you met lots of Black people. You made connections, and you got to know people that were outside of your immediate team, and it was a great networking opportunity. So I enjoyed it when I started it there, and I also enjoyed the skills it allowed me to develop. So like presentation skills, talking to people, talking to a group, managing events, managing budgets, those kind of things that I didn't get on my day job.
Yeah,
I got from that. So I thought it was a fantastic opportunity. So when I came to this company, I thought, do they have something like it? Can I get involved? And then I joined, and it was like, okay, it ain't quite the same. Because there's a much smaller company, and the network was very young. I think it had been in existence for only like a year or 2 years at the time.
wow.
Desperately dying for support and help, and for people to be engaged. So when you come in and you're like, well, you could try this, and you're like, wow,
I love it. This is literally your entrance into all of these places.
Honestly, so I was like, so I'd go to the meetings once in a while, and I'm like, have you tried this? And they're like, huh, that's such a great idea. And then they were looking, so one of the co-chairs stepped down, and they were looking for a replacement. I wasn't even intending to join because at the time I was like, I don't even know what my role is going to be like. I was 6 months in. I don't know what, my life here is going to be like. And the head of diversity now, she wasn't that then. She was just like the head of something else, but now she's the head of diversity. this really lovely Black woman, she said, have you thought of applying for the role? I'm like, me, I don't have time for that. Sorry. Me don't have time for that. So she said, just think about it. I was like, okay, cool. And then after that, I was like,
Okay.
you know what? Why not? And then I applied and I got it. And I was like, oh,
Amazing.
okay. So yeah. And that's how really I've come to be the co-chair. And I'm a doer, so I wouldn't have gotten it and then just,
For
closed it.
sure.
So I just, rolled up my sleeves and did the work.
And like in that, like, are you seeing like any common themes? Are you seeing like when it comes to, I'm not sure whether like how involved that like you will be with kind of like outreach to people who want to get into technology. I'm not sure how involved you were with that, but do you see any kind of common themes or barriers really towards getting into your division or like the kind of the financial space?
So, excuse me, we don't get involved directly with recruiting, but we definitely get consulted. And one thing that I know for sure that people in the HR function struggle with, at least in my company, is advertising in the right places,
right?
Getting the information to the right groups. And I'm like, hello, there are places like viSHEbility, like there are all these things. And they're like, oh, what's that? I'm like,
where are you looking?
Are you kidding me? So I think, and also when you now look at who's in the HR function, you're like,
makes sense. Okay.
I see where the problem is. So, I think if companies really want to diversify their workspaces and their workplaces, you have to start with who you're asking to bring people in.
Right.
If someone went to Loughborough, they need to recruit from Loughborough. If someone doesn't know any Black people, they're not going to recruit any Black people. And you can only cast the net as far as your hand can reach, right? So if you're not in those networks and you're not even looking, then you're not going to find them.
Okay. No, that was a word, like literally, and it is as simple as that. But like as well, I was going to ask, like, if your position as co-chair and you were going to give advice to, let's say, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a tech company, but even like within these divisions, because I'm a recent graduate, so when it came to like career fairs, when it came to like tech, it literally seemed so illustrious. Like this word technology, I don't know what that means, like genuinely. So that's why I was like, so if you were to think of tech as a word, like what would you think of? But in that kind of sense and representation, I don't think that I've seen, and as I said, this is like the first time we've had someone tech on here. I don't think I've seen like a Black woman in technology, like literally a digital product owner having that ownership. I've never had a conversation like that. So how do you think you can have more representation and outreach in these areas? Or
I think people need to see I think right now when people think about tech, they think boring nerds. Like if you were to run a poll and ask people what they thought when they hear technology, that's what they'll think of. I think we need to humanize the industry a lot more.
Wow.
We need to put faces that are not the typical faces, and let people know that there are people that work there that look like me. It's not rocket science. It really is not rocket science. Like genuinely, and all you're doing is solving problems. Like even as a developer, even as someone who's writing code, all you're doing is solving problems in another language. That's it. That is literally it. So anyone can code. Anybody. I mean, there's this girl I follow on Twitter. I forget her name now. I think her name is Yasmin or something. She has a YouTube channel. She's a coder, and she talks about coding. She started coding, I think, outside of university. I don't think she even studied anything coding related. And she's taught herself like Java and all these languages. So I'm like, anyone can do it.
Anyone can do it. And
So
like,
companies, when it comes to representation, I've taken it upon myself to like spread the word and let people know that tech is not daunting, it's not this scary thing, and really it's just solving problems. There's room for any kind of person in tech. You don't have to be a tech head. And and just I think companies should follow suit as well. I think a lot of them are waiting for the talent to come to them, like on the back foot. So you need to be proactive about it, because you'll be here in 10 years time saying, oh, it's not so diverse, but what can we do?
No one wants this. No one knows what you are. Like, no one knows.
No one even knows who you are, what you want,
No, for sure. And like, if you were to give, advice to, let's say, a woman who wants to either get into tech, they've maybe just like graduated or something, or a woman who wants to pivot into tech, like, what advice would you give to them?
The first thing I would say is don't let the role scare you.
Okay. Love
so that. We're currently recruiting on my team, and the people that are on my team now were like, this role looks very scary. It's not that deep. And it was like, well, I don't really know why have we advertised this role this way? It doesn't make sense. So I think the first thing is don't let the role scare you. If they list 17 skills, you probably only need like 3.
Oh, okay.
I'm not even kidding. So don't let the role scare you at all.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to reach out. Just ask if you can speak to someone, because half the time I think people approach, and I don't know if they're HR people on the call, or people approach jobs as this black box, and it's like, I'm going to apply. They're either going to accept me or reject me. You can talk to someone. You can ask to speak to someone. And I don't know if that's legal or whatever, but if someone reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, I just applied to a role in your company, can you talk to me about it? I'll be so happy to talk to you about it, because I don't have anything to lose. If you're good, we'll get you in. If you don't meet the criteria, then we don't. But we'll give you feedback as to, why you didn't make it. So I think people that are not recruiting, people that are looking for jobs, like you said, should just not be afraid of asking questions, of just being as inquisitive as the role as they would be about you, because at the end of the day, applying for a job is a two-way street, and it doesn't feel like that when you're there, though.
It doesn't. No.
I need someone to pay me to come into work. But you should be interviewing the company as well, because are they going to support your career? Is it someone that you want to grow?
For sure.
And that kind of stuff. So yeah, I would say just don't be afraid. Don't be daunted by the role description.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. And like, yeah, I think actually just taking down those barriers to a whole, like, this is a whole industry, like, literally. And don't block your blessings in that direction. So
literally look for, if you're looking for a job at viSHEbility, just type in viSHEbility, look for someone that looks friendly.
I love that. Yeah. Look, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, and most people will want to talk to you. Like, I haven't reached out to anybody that said get lost. Worst case, they won't reply.
And like, what if you are in another industry? So another industry and you want to transition into tech, is that the same advice you'd give someone? Or?
Yeah, I think you have to find your entry point, is what I would say.
Oh, that's the word.
So if you're coming from, I don't know, like, I don't know what example to give. Like, if you're coming from, being a mortgage advisor,
yeah,
and you want to come into tech, I say find your entry point. You might have to start from some kind of bottom.
Wow. Okay.
But you just find your entry point. So you're not going to come in and be project lead the first day. Yeah. But find your entry point. Think about what skills you need. And what you already have. So a lot of the time, skills are transferable. Analysis skills. As a mortgage advisor, you probably do that.
Yeah.
And then just look for a role that will allow you to grow the skills you need to get to where you are, but also will you use the skills that you already have. So whether it's an analyst, junior analyst, whatever. And don't think about it like, oh, I'm starting afresh, because the truth is there's so many places that things can take you. I don't think, someone said to me once, your career is not a line, it's a jungle.
For sure.
So
wow.
You go up, you go down, you go sideways. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's awesome. And like, honestly, I'm just taking so many gems. Like, actually, like, going into your learnings, you know, one of them, you've mentioned this so many times, and like, I think this is like, this is super pertinent, like actually looking at your job role as solving, you know, a solution and solving a problem. So like, do you have any examples of you doing that? I know you've mentioned a few, but like, is there anything specific that you have, like, in your, you know, experience, that you've been like, okay, I'm gonna solve this problem, and yeah, be that solution?
I mean, that's kind of every day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, we love it. We love it. That's all.
I think, there are a few, there are a few things, and if I have to think about work now, it's past 5 o'clock. um, things like, I remember when I first joined this team, it was like our clients are, you know, in their 60s and 70s, they don't want anything digital.
Mm,
And I was like, pretty sure that's not true.
okay.
But I can't prove it, right? So myself and this other guy I told you I work with, we were like, how come? And well, he was one of the people that were actually saying these things, because you repeat what you hear. And I was like, well, if we have stats on who our users are, for example, I think part of the metadata that we collect is age.
Mm-hmm.
So let's test it out. They say people over 60 don't like to use computers. How true is that? So, we got a business intelligence tool built, and lo and behold, increasingly, they were coming online one by one. I think when I joined, we had maybe 8,000 users. Now we have 30 something thousand users, and that's in 18 months. So it's just like, y'all didn't know what you were talking about.
And you've already put, like, you know, you've already put those barriers in place. Like, you could literally
Exactly.
be a solution, but
Exactly. And you made assumptions about people, because, or I don't like, it doesn't even have any basis. It has no standing. And it's one of those things where people are only used to doing a job the way they're used to doing a job. So people are used to printing out reams of paper when they want to have like annual reviews. And it's like, why can't you do that on a device?
wow, yeah. As simple as it is, like, it will revolutionize, like, your business. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah,
No,
I think just testing, and part of the role as a tech person is just testing theories as well. So if someone says something, well, how do you know that's true? Prove it.
mm-hmm.
And with tech, you can always prove it. There's always data to prove something.
Wow.
So just prove it. If the data proves that you're right, sure. But if it proves that you're wrong, then there's so many possibilities or things we could do to make it better.
Wow. I think, like, I think I'm gonna start using that as a little mental note. Prove it. Like, literally.
Literally.
You don't know. You don't
Someone
know.
tells you something, ask them to prove it.
Yeah, wow. And as you said, it's kind of like routine. Your idea generations can sometimes be very routine. So even challenging yourself in that way can literally just open up a door, which is awesome. So yeah, guys, let's be solutions. Let's be solutions to our teams, to our firms, to the industry. You know, that's awesome. And one of your other learnings was how to leverage your visibility. So and you said, okay, now I'm visible, now what? So like, yeah, what does like visibility mean to you? And I like, it must be like super important as well in tech. And guys, please, can I just put a plug in there? You won the We Are Technology Women. No, you were.
I didn't win.
You were
I shortlisted, yeah.
But you were shortlisted for the We Are Women 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 100 individuals in tech, which is absolutely awesome. So like, even like on a platform like that, how was that, and you know, what did that visibility mean to you?
Yeah, so I think to me, visibility is being, I mean, I'll probably not define it exactly, but it's being known for something, like it's being known for something, and being known for competence in something.
Wow.
So for me, the way the Tech Women 100 came about was when I worked at Barclays. This woman that I worked with was like, I'm going to nominate you for this award. I'm like, me? telling a friend, and she was like, "You?" I was like, "I know." Um, and she said, "Yeah, I think you the way you carry yourself." And it's funny because a lot of people say that to me, like the way you carry yourself. Someone said to me once, "You walk around like you own the place." I said,
There you go, sister.
"Okay." So I think sometimes visibility is, being known for competence, but also carrying yourself like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Mhm.
But you also have to know what you're talking about, because when they ask, prove it. You have
Yeah.
to prove it. When they say prove it, you have to now prove it. Um, but at the time she was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna nominate you for this award." I'm like, I mean, okay, sure. Um, and I remember one time I was like, should I nominate myself? Should I not? And I am absolutely one for self-nominating. It is underrated. I think people should nominate themselves more for awards, because
Yeah.
if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
she nominated me. I filled out the stuff, because when you get nominated, they tell you that someone has nominated you, and then you have to prove it to them, essentially.
This
So
one.
you have to submit, answers to questions so they can verify that you are who this person has said you are. And after I did all of that, I was like, I've done things, when you sit down and think about it. And I think a lot of us don't do that enough. We just work Monday to Friday, January to December, and hope that we get promoted. But it's like, why?
Right.
You know why? If you don't know why should anybody else know why?
Wow.
so, so from then on, I was like, you know what? Being visible is also articulating that I am good at this, and making sure that you remind people every day that not only can you see me, I'm also going to tell you what I'm good at, so that when you're thinking about XYZ, you know that you are thinking about me. Because I think people do one half of the visibility thing where it's like, I want to be seen, I want to be seen. Okay, we've seen you.
What now? Oh, wow.
We've seen that you are in the office every day, you look chirpy, you dress smart, you are in the meeting talking. But like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So you now you then want to articulate, like, so every time you speak, even just things like repeating things, like, so in my experience of XYZ, blah 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 blah. So people are like, okay, so Lola's experience at this. So when we have this in mind, we think about her.
Wow.
That kind of thing, just restating your value, restating your competence, it really goes a long way. Because someone will just turn around and say, "Yeah, Lola owns the whole of digital." I'm like, whoa, pause. That is not true, but I'm glad you think that, because always bringing people back to thinking about this thing, thinking about that thing, saying, in my experience, this, that. Even if your experience is YouTube, it's your experience. And just making sure that people understand what you want to be visible for. I think you can absolutely shape your own visibility. Is what you want to be known for, that people will know you for, and you have to show up as that. Otherwise, people just see you. Like, there are so many people I'm sure you used to see in your office.
Yeah.
You just see them. You don't know what they do. You don't know what they're good at. You just see them. Now that we're not in the office, how far?
Yeah.
What's really good now that we're at home?
Do you have wow, no, seriously, reiterating your value is like, I've never really thought of that. Okay, you are valuable, but yeah, how do you reiterate that? No, and that's great. And I'm sure the the MVP program, guys, be valuable, but reiterate being valuable. So no, that is fantastic. I have taken your time in speaking. So, I'm going to open the floor. If we have some more time, talk about the podcast, because that is also awesome. And yeah, I would just love to hear more. Also, the podcast is hilarious. It's hilarious. So please, guys, if you've enjoyed this, you can enjoy Lola some more. But we would love some questions. And yeah, please, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Play this for myself. So thank you. Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, that would be fantastic. but that's fine.
Sorry, should we talk or do we type the question?
Go ahead.
Okay, great. So in terms of, and forgive me if you said this because my internet dropped off and then I came back on. But in terms of creating visibility and, being the one to kind of tout yourself, I feel like I've asked this question on like different platforms. People always have different answers. But when it comes to, being proud and saying what you do and making people know what you do, how do you do that with tact? Like, how do you do that and not...
I'm big-headed.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the way I do it is first of all, I listen. So I think one mistake that I have definitely made in my own career is you just enter the room and just start talking. And it's like, what do you know we're talking about? They are just talking. So I think first of all, listen. Once you listened to what's being said, and there are a lot of people that do that, they just come in and they just tell you everything they know and they say I'm this and that. But half the time you've not even listened, so all the information you've given is out of context. So one, I'd say listen, and once you've listened, make sure that what you are touting yourself for is relevant. It's not every room you will go into that you speak about yourself, because some rooms just require you to listen. But if you're in a room where you feel like my value is needed here, maybe they're talking about something that you've worked on before or you have some experience in, you listen and you say, based on what you said, in my experience, XYZ. And, if you have the opportunity to elaborate, you say, when I did that, we got XYZ results. Because it's not just about, you had the experience, what did it produce? Because a lot of experiences don't produce anything positive. So I think once you establish that you are someone who has experience and have gotten, even if it wasn't positive, you learned something from it. So it can be negative and you say, in my experience, when we did this before, it didn't work out. And these are the reasons it didn't work out. And this is what we learned from it. They can then go, okay, so she knows what she's talking about. And it's relevant and it has something to do with what we're talking about. So, and obviously as a Black woman as well, we get that thing, I at least get that thing where it's like, you already feel othered. And then once you open your mouth, everyone's like, oh, she's a bit, she's a bit sassy. She's a bit, I know how many times I've been called sassy. I know how many times I've been called this. Sometimes you want to tone it down. Other times you play to your strengths because it's the person that is talking that will end up being listened to. So if they think you're sassy, sure, but as long as you're getting your message across, I definitely would say don't play it all the time. So you don't want to be the sassy one. That's not what you want your brand to be. But yeah, I know what you mean. You don't want to come across as big-headed. So I think make it relevant, and also share the learnings as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you, especially with the impact. That's really helpful.
You're welcome.
I'm writing notes myself, honestly. If anyone, questions are so welcome. Okay, maybe I shall ask.
Actually, how would you say people should encourage, especially younger girls, how would they encourage their parents, who tend to be the decision-making factors at a certain age? But how can younger girls at different stages start encouraging their parents to have more of an open mind, around things like, technology or other learnings within the STEM space? Do you have any experience with that? Because usually I find that sometimes that's usually like that's the bridge that needs to be covered. It's like you have somebody who's interested, but then they say go and play with dolls instead of building so you almost have to be intentional about parenting or whatever. But to the extent like, people still don't have parents that are coming into this age, like how can younger girls actually encourage, their parents to see things differently?
Absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Parenting needs to be different in our generation. People who already have kids need to think about parenting differently. I think, especially now where the level of entry is so young, like You have people that are 17 writing great apps. You have people that are 16 writing great apps. They didn't get there because they woke up at age 17 and started writing lines of code. They've been thinking about these things, they've been playing with. And the thing is, code is really just logic. A plus B equals C. Therefore, it's logic. So I definitely think, parents need to encourage their kids to be inquisitive with, logical stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with playing with dolls, but if someone wants to line their dolls by color, encourage that, because honestly, that's how it starts. Kids start to think about these things and they ask questions and they're curious, and parents are like, oh, please just leave me alone. I just need my time. I think parents should definitely encourage that curiosity and nurture that curiosity, because honestly, I'm telling you guys, writing code is logic. It's just learning a language and writing logic in that language. So even if it's just how to color code your dolls, that's a developer right there. That's a coder. And we just need to encourage those kinds of things in kids, and not see that something that's nerdy or geeky or anything like that. I think it should be encouraged, absolutely.
That's awesome. No, that's great. And like, I love how like it's logic. I feel like we do that every day. Like we try
Every
to get
day.
the simplest solution or explaining it in the most simplest way, and we can just go from there. But that's awesome. We have another question here. How would you go about building stakeholder relationships over Zoom?
And that one is tricky, I'm not gonna lie, because I'm a person. I thrive off people's energy and that kind of stuff. But what I found is, if you even if the other so these are very simple practical tips, but I try to have my camera on so that people can engage with me, so you can see my facial expressions, whatever. Not everyone wants to do that all the time, but I also chat to people as well. So I think we have lost, unfortunately, the opportunity to just walk up to someone's desk and say, how you doing? What's going on? What are you working on? Or even just see that something is happening. So, if you see people gathered around the desk, something is happening.
Yeah.
You don't see that anymore. So I try to keep up with people, in, just chatting with them. And it's funny because now, if you're not on my most recent chatted with on Teams, which is what we use, and it's funny, but it's true. I want to remember that I owe you something, or I ought to send something to you, because if you haven't buzzed me on Teams, you obviously don't need it.
Right.
So I think just keeping up with people, trying as much as you can to maintain that human element, because it's difficult. It's very difficult, especially if you are a naturally people person. But I'd say just try and try and stay in the loop with your stakeholders as well. Try and understand, what, if you've maybe both been on a town hall or something, you just met them like, oh, what do you think of what this person said?
Yeah. Okay.
And then you start talking about stuff, and that's how you find out about stuff as well. Yeah.
Okay. No, that is awesome. And Lola, it has been a pleasure. Like, I've thoroughly it's been hilarious, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Gems as well.
Virtual claps for Lola. I think that was phenomenal. She's dropped so many gems. I was writing notes and chatting as well. Literally, I've got notes here. It's you never learn enough, and it's just really exciting just what you've done with your career and all of that good stuff. So I'm really, really personally very proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, really exciting to hear just about the amazing things you're able to do and relationships you're building along the way. And one thing that Lola definitely mentioned, in terms of I guess self-aggrandization. So basically putting yourself up for things, that is so key, because if you don't believe in yourself, who will? And anyone who even wants to try to support your visibility, you're going to have to put some money on the table. You're going to have to put some skin in the game, as they say. So there are lots of opportunities. I know that the Rising Stars program, I can't remember what they're called now, but it's the Rising Stars program. They've started taking nominations. the Empower program start taking nominations. All the people we see on Forbes 30 under 30 and all that kind of stuff, they all submitted applications for that. Like no one is out there checking for you. Do you get what I mean? Like, so in the end, you have to make sure like you tell people that they should be checking for you. That's kind of the whole gist, right? So I really like that you mentioned that. So to the extent you know Black women in your world who you want to put up for things, you know, whether leaders in D&I, leaders in finance, in tech, in engineering, in business, like this is the time where we can support each other by really like putting ourselves up. And if you want to put yourself up and you need a nomination, reach out into the tribe, ask someone to nominate you. That's why we're there, right? And then the rest is up to you, because that's all they do is submit an email. The rest is up to you. But no, so thank you so much for me and the team. And I can see the chat going with lots of virtual claps going. So thank you for joining us. Quick last one for me is, how can people stay in touch with you? How can they get onto the podcast? How can they contact you? That will probably be the best way to end our conversation.
Yeah, so you can contact me on LinkedIn. The podcast handle on all social media is Pull Up Your Chair. I think on Instagram it has an underscore, which is
Right, yeah.
But yeah, Pull Up Your Chair. If you want to come on the podcast, talk about anything. We talk about careers, we talk about relationships, we talk about just, you know, experiencing life as a Black woman in London, essentially.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can reach out to us and, you know, just let us know what you want to talk about and we'll find a slot for you. And yeah, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Like I said, you can ask me anything about anything. I'm very happy to answer questions, and I'm in the group chat as well in the tribe.
Yeah.
So you can reach out to me there as well.
Excellent. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Panashe, for hosting. I don't know where you've disappeared to, but thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
And yeah, like this is awesome.
As a community, it's amazing. I think you guys are doing an amazing job. So well
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Well, have a good night, ladies, and hope to see you on the next career conversation, the next sip and learn, the next thing that we're doing. And also don't forget to check out the Success MVP course and apply and come on board, and let's learn together and grow as a group. So with that, have a great night, ladies. Take care.